Welcome to the Impact Marriage Podcast. Today, we are talking about growth in marriage, specifically when one spouse is growing faster than the other.
That's right. Have you ever felt like maybe you're growing, you're changing, you're stretching, and your spouse just isn't quite in the same place? Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe you're on the other side and you feel like you're the one being left behind a little bit in some area of life. This is something almost every couple experiences, right? In one way, in one or more areas of life at some point in their marriage, but not a lot of people talk about it. And how you handle this season can either bring you closer together or it can slowly start creating distance. And we obviously want to help you draw closer. And that's why we're discussing it today. So, Nicole, let's start with maybe some scenarios that couples may be able to relate to, maybe at least one of them or more of them. What are some of those?
Well, there's so many, but some that I am thinking of, like one would be spiritual growth. So maybe someone's faith is growing a lot faster, or they're in a season where they're really consistent, maybe reading the word, just praying more, part of a, discipleship group, like a D group or, something like that.
Yeah.
Along those lines. Another thing is personal development and mindset. So they're reading books or, listening to podcasts like this one. And, they're maybe buying courses and they're just really wanting to develop in that area as far as mindset and personal development. Another one would be financial growth. So maybe one is, wanting to learn more. Maybe they're taking a Dave Ramsey course. I don't know, wanting to save or invest, setting up financial goals and just being a better steward with their money. Yeah. And then another area is health and fitness. This is one I see so much of, because there's one spouse that's, really.
Partly because that's the business that we're in.
Yeah, maybe that's why. Well, and we work out together.
Yes,
and so
we do. We
talk to a lot of couples at the gym and we're like, we get to know them. And it's like, oh, where's your wife? Or where's your husband? Oh, they don't work out. So we hear that a lot. One might be focused too, like just eating better. And then of course, working out. And then one might have better sleep habits. There might be one that's like, okay, I want to get on a good sleep schedule. Another one is like a night owl and, doesn't want to, just,
right.
Yeah. Anyways, has really bad sleep habits.
What
and
else?
Then another one is emotional maturity. So, one spouse might be working on communication, maybe it's healing past wounds, becoming emotionally aware. And rather than defensive, maybe shutting down and avoiding hard conversations. You might just be like, oh, let's sweep everything under the rug,
Yep.
Another one I see a lot too is parenting growth. One parent is just becoming more present with the children, more patient and more intentional, maybe spending more time with them.
Yep.
Where the other is like, okay, well, mom's doing that or dad's, spending more time with them. That means I don't have to. Well, that's not the case. And so maybe they're reading parenting books. And so they just want to be, better or listening to podcasts, and wanting to become better in that area. And there's just many other scenarios as well.
Yeah. So many. Well, those are some great ones. And I think hopefully, as you're listening to Nicole share some of those, maybe there's one or more of those that you can relate with, yet feeling again like you were ahead of your spouse or behind your spouse in some, one or more of those areas in a season of life, or maybe you find yourself in that season right here today. So if so, that's great. We're really passionate. When I say it's great that you're listening, because hopefully this can be an encouragement to you. We're passionate about this subject, aren't we?
We are, because growth is so important to us.
So
we don't want to stay stagnant.
Yeah. And that, and one of that's a big one. And another big one is because God's word calls us to growth. We read the parable of the sower, which you may or may not be familiar with, but many of you probably are. You can find the parable of the sower in Matthew chapter 13, I believe in Matthew or in Mark 4, and then also in Luke, I think it's Luke 7 or 8. talks about yielding fruit, us yielding fruit, and that some of us are going to yield 100-fold, 90, or I think it's 60-fold, and others 30-fold. So it paints this picture that not everybody is going to bear the same amount of fruit, right? And then when you marry that with one of my favorite passages, Matthew 20, in Matthew 25, Jesus is talking about, and you may be familiar with this one as well, the parable of the talents. And he's saying that, he's teaching that, we've all been given different gifts, different talents, different abilities. Some, like in the case of the parable, one person was given one talent, another was given 2 or 3. Now I forget. And a third one was given 5, right? It wasn't about who was given what. It was about what they did with those talents while the master was gone and then when he returned. So I take that to mean, that God has gifted each and every one of us, and you listening to this podcast right now, with different talents, different gifts, different abilities. Even I'll add in there different opportunities that you've been given that others weren't given. Success, I've shared this before, but success to us is getting to the end of our life, whenever that may be. And if we could look back on our life and say, did we maximize the gifts, talents, abilities, and opportunities that God entrusted to us? Those talents that you can read about in Matthew 25 in that parable. And so when you kind of wrap your head around that and you say, yeah, I do want to be a good steward of not only the money God gives me, however much or how little it may be, the time that God gives me, but also the talents and abilities God gives me and opportunities, it kind of leads to the logical conclusion that you're got to be committed to growing then. You've got to be committed to growth. And we are. And that's why, and we haven't always been of that mindset. And now that we have been for many years now, it's been such a blessing to get to see what God has done through us individually and us as a couple. And it's been a blessing for me to see the growth in Nicole and vice versa. I believe for you to see the growth in me as well, right?
Oh, yeah. It's been so fun to watch. Yeah. We've experienced, growth in a variety of ways since starting our home business. That has been huge for us doing that together when we started it in 2015. It's really interesting because when we first started it, Allan was a total introvert. Yeah. He did not want to talk to people. And I might have said this on another episode, but going to church, I think I did. Like we would go to church and literally he'd be like, turn the car around. I don't want to go. I'm like, what? Why? And he's like, I just don't want to talk to people. I can't handle it. I can't handle talking to more than one person. I could do one-on-one. And some people can probably relate to this if you're an introvert. But he's like, I can't handle if it's more than one. Woo. He would just shut down. And I didn't understand it because I'm an extrovert. I'm like, what is wrong with you? So our business, our home-based business, it changed that. And now Allan I feel like he's more outgoing than me now. It's so interesting. And then for me too, the self-development as far as, being on this podcast, speaking in front of people.
This is the last thing you would have ever done.
Last thing
10
I
years
would
ago
ever want to do. But because of the growth in the business, it's really, pushed me. And also I've had encouragement. Allan's been an incredible encourager. We also had friends that encouraged me as well. And so it's pushed me out of my comfort zone. And I'm not who I used to be.
Yeah, no, you're not.
10 years ago or
not even close. Yeah. And that's been such a blessing to me. But at the same time, in saying all of that, we haven't always grown in these various areas at the same pace, have we?
No.
We haven't. And there's been areas where Nicole was just so far ahead of me in growth in different seasons and aspects of life. And then vice versa, areas where I was so far ahead of her in different seasons and aspects of life. And I think that's probably one big, huge takeaway that hopefully everyone catches is that is normal.
Oh,
it's normal.
So
it's like
normal.
Two people, with two become one, but you don't exactly grow in every aspect of life at the same rate.
Yeah.
And it's okay. And it's normal. That's a big, if that's been stressing you out in any area, just know that's okay. It's normal.
It's never been in sync. I feel like our growth in our marriage has never been in sync. And there's seasons where one person, like you said, is growing more spiritually, or maybe their mindset, or even just personally, or maybe in their communication,
right,
or their fitness, or some other area, and the other one isn't quite there yet. And that doesn't mean something's wrong with your marriage.
exactly. It
It's
just means that
absolutely normal.
it
I
just means you're
promise you.
human. Just means you're human.
Yeah. So we like to say a different pace doesn't mean different purpose, right?
Oh, that's good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we're on the same team. We have the same vision, Allan and I. We, have the same mission, purpose, and one of us just may be in a season where the growth is actually happening a lot more rapidly than the other person. So
that's right. Yeah. And where couples really get into trouble, I think, is how they respond to it. Because, if you're not careful and you don't have a proper perspective, a godly perspective, I'll add, it can turn into frustration really fast.
Yeah.
And I know we've experienced that
We have.
in the past. You can fall into that trap of like, why aren't you seeing what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
Like, why aren't you growing like I'm growing?
Mhm.
Why? And it's just that's not a good place to be.
Yeah, I could see that being a major, area of danger or trouble or whatever. But another one is you could be the one growing, but maybe you're falling into pride,
Mm.
Good. Like that could be another one, like jealousy.
Yeah.
Jealousy. Because maybe the other one, like, for example,
if you're not the one growing as fast,
it's getting,
saying?
like I'm thinking of the past, and it's so funny, Allan, because I thought of this other day. I can't believe I'm saying this on this podcast, but that's what podcasts are about, to be real and raw,
Yep.
right? But
What
I
are you
was
gonna
thinking
say?
the other day, and I've told you this in the past. I'm like, Allan, I don't think I've ever been jealous of someone in my life. I've never experienced jealousy.
Definitely not a jealous person.
But when we went over this and like what we were going to talk about, this topic, it hit me really hard. I'm like, I have been jealous of my husband in this area as far as fitness. Okay. So this is giving you an example of growth. Allan was so far ahead of me. And
not anymore.
And yeah, we work out together. So I feel like we're on the same pace now. But there was a season, and there are going to be sometimes seasons in your life, which is okay. But I was a mom. I was a new mom. I had a newborn. And then we had our first two really close together, 15 minutes, 15 months apart. 15, they would be twins, right? 15 months apart. So we had them really close together. And I was an exhausted mom, new to motherhood. And, he was getting fit. And, I think there was like a little envy, a little bit jealous. So I have been jealous, which is so sad, jealous of my own husband, but, wishing like, oh, I wish I could be fit, or I wish I had time for that. But in that season, I didn't. So, like, pride, jealousy. Can you think of another one?
I mean, I just think that, if someone could, if they're the one growing faster, they could be saying, hey, I'm putting in the work to grow in this area. And if they're not careful, they can begin looking at their spouse differently. Mm-hmm. And that creates distance. Even if you don't say it out loud, anything that we're thinking, and we talked about this a few episodes ago on the episode on mindset, and having that Philippians chapter 4, verse 8 filter. Whatever things are true, whatever things are right, right? Whatever things are lovely, noble, good report, praiseworthy. These are the things we should be thinking on. This is the filter we need to run our thoughts through. And it's so easy to start letting, if we don't do that, if we're not taking every thought captive, if we're not, renewing our mind, then it's so easy to start looking at your spouse differently. And that's just that does not end well. I mean, if you allow that to keep going for very long. So I would say that's the big one. And if you feel like you have something to add to that.
Yeah. Well, another one is like being stubborn. I think I see a lot too. And I think we're going to talk about this later, but one spouse just being another dangerous spot to be in is one's being stubborn. They're like, no. And maybe because the other spouse is pushing them to do it, not encouraging and not doing it in a loving way.
Right. So. Which is very important. And hopefully we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But if you feel like you're the one growing faster in a season, this part is really important to understand, that you just can't force your spouse to grow. And I know that should be obvious, but it needs to be said. Unfortunately, sometimes we need to hear these things that should be obvious to us. We can't force our spouse to grow, and you definitely can't shame them into it. That never works. Ever, ever, ever. Believe me, I'm ashamed to tell you, I've tried it. It doesn't work. It's not effective. It's not effective with our children. It's not effective with our spouse. That's not the way to do it.
Yeah. But what does work, I believe, is leading by example. And Allan, you have done this so well just by encouraging me. You really have.
Thank you.
And you're such an incredible encourager.
Depends on the area.
Yeah. And so if you are, just focus on that, encouraging the other person and anything positive, give them the words of affirmations, like you're doing good, words of praise and encouragement. I mean, that's going to speak volume.
Yes.
But most importantly, though, let them be inspired by the change they see in you. So good, your Nicole. Peace, your patience, your walk with the Lord, your mindset, your consistency, whatever it is, your attitude, your fitness, your communication, your work ethic, whatever you're working on, the areas that you're wanting to grow in, let them see the change in you. I believe that's huge.
That's good. And that really is what speaks. We like to say your talk talks and your walk talks, but your talk talks louder.
He says that all the time.
But
I can't believe you're not getting it because you say it all the time. It's so good.
Your walk talks and your talk talks, but your walk talks louder than your talk talks. Okay?
Yeah. So good.
And that is true. Basically, our actions speak louder than our words is what we're saying there.
Yeah. And we've also learned over the years, too, that when the other person's growing, it's attractive.
Very.
Right? I mean, yeah.
As long as you're not jealous.
Yeah. I'm not jealous. Not anymore. There was just that season. But
no, it's attractive to see your spouse become a better communicator.
Yeah.
To be more healthy, to be more fit, to be more humble, to be drawing closer to the Lord, to know God's word better. To be a better prayer, right? Prayer warrior.
Yes.
Like those are attractive things.
It's attractive. It's all positive things. Yeah. So, but if you're putting pressure on them to grow faster, that is not attractive at all.
Never.
So be careful not to do that.
That's good. And if you feel like you're the one in like the slow season of growth right now, first of all, let me just tell you, let us tell you.
Hey, I relate. If you're in the slow, I mean, I feel like I'm riding his coattail all the time. He's always ahead.
No, not at all.
Yes.
Not at all. Definitely, there's been seasons with one of us was ahead more than the other in different areas, but not at all. But I just want to say there is no shame in that. If you're the one that's behind in a particular area, the key though is to stay open to growth.
Yes.
Stay humble, stay teachable. Whatever you do, don't shut down and don't get defensive.
That's big.
It's huge, right?
Yeah.
Just be honest where you are and just take the small steps forward, no matter how small they are. Just take take them one little baby step at a time forward. And I'll add, keep a biblical perspective. Earlier, we mentioned Matthew 25, the parable of the talents. To me and to Nicole, that's a huge thing. Just keeping that perspective that God has entrusted you with gifts, talents, abilities, opportunities, and your job is to maximize those, right?
Yeah.
And you have them. It's not a matter you don't have them. You have them. And keep that perspective as you go through, and obviously trust the Holy Spirit to guide and direct you and give you what you need to be able to grow in the areas He's calling you to grow in.
Yeah. And also just to encourage you, like you do not have to grow fast, but you have to be willing to grow.
Right.
I think of that book. What is that book with the turtle and the rabbit, the hare?
The tortoise and the
hare? The tortoise
is that
and the
the
hare.
Name of the book?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, but the tortoise was he was consistent. I mean, that's what that book is about, right?
Right. Yep.
He was consistent, but man, he was slow. But who won? Who won the race?
The tortoise won, right?
That's right.
I remember that as a child for sure. And the point is, you don't have to go slow. The point is, be consistent at whatever speed you are going, and celebrate the growth along the way. By the way, if these episodes have encouraged you, we're on now this is episode 14, and they've encouraged you, and you would like to hear other topics that we cover in the future, now would be an amazing time smash that subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube, or hit that follow button there at the top, probably depending on the podcast platform you're listening to it on. If you're not on YouTube here today, I know sometimes I forget to do things like that and then wonder, where did that podcast go that I stumbled across? So just want to take a moment to encourage you to do that if you're enjoying what you're hearing and being encouraged.
Okay. I love this topic, growth, because growing together it's really so much fun.
It is.
Probably a lot of people think, oh my goodness, I have to grow, but it is. It's so fun to look back. I love looking back and seeing, wow, I grew in this area, an area I thought I would never grow in.
I love that. I love that too.
It's the best feeling. And it's not only for me, but for others too. Like other areas,
like your spouse.
Well, and your kids are watching too. Yeah. They're watching. And if they see mom and dad growing in this area and seeing a life transformation in that area, I mean, that is powerful.
That's powerful
for kids to see.
So powerful.
I mean, right there.
Yep.
And everyone, your friends, family, everyone.
And the gift to your spouse.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, growing together, it's definitely so much fun. It's where connection can really increase. And as you grow together, just as we have done over the past several years, and we're still growing.
Oh yeah. It's a journey.
So we will till the day we die.
Yep. That's so fun.
You can certainly be growing at different speeds like we talked about, but you're still on the same team.
And don't forget it.
Yeah. So it's so important to keep talking, keep checking in with your spouse and keep communication open.
That's so good, Nicole. And, celebrate each other. Even if you're in different places or you're in different seasons, celebrate each other, celebrate what the other's doing, any growth that's taking place in the other person.
Even if they did horrible, me coming off stage where I just did horrible, he would always celebrate me. You did awesome. Even if I didn't do awesome, but he would focus on the positive, whatever it was. Like, you smiled so much. You have the best smile. I'm like, yeah, I stunk. No. But, anyways.
Not at all.
And don't let growth become a wedge between you and your spouse. It should actually bring you closer. And remember, we're not competing. For those that are, past athletes, I tend to compete with you. I mean, in some areas, like wake surfing, he's so good. I'm like, I want to get good like him someday.
It's okay to compete. Okay. It depends how you do it.
Good.
It depends on.
I'm pretty competitive. And so we both have a competitive nature, but we're building stronger together and we are one. So we have to remember that we are one. And it's like, okay, if you're better in this area, it's great because we're one. That means I'm awesome.
And that's the thing. I think it is okay to compete.
Yeah.
It's all in the mindset and the heart attitude behind the competition. If we're competing with something, like I remember years ago running, running 5Ks and 10Ks and triathlons with my friend Josh Clark. And I remember we were pretty equal. Like sometimes he'd beat me and sometimes I'd beat him, and then he'd work harder and then he'd beat me at the next race.
So yeah.
And that was like really good competition because we were cheering for each other, but yet we were competing with each other. And as a result, we both got better. So I feel like in that sense, competing is a wonderful thing. Like if somebody's inspiring you,
if they have a competitive nature, which you both do.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, and in that case, it's not like we're wanting the other person to do bad. Like I want you to excel.
Yes.
And you want me to excel.
Absolutely.
And grow and win. But to compete with that, it pulls each one of us up. Right. Yeah. So again, I think the thing is that what we don't want to compete in the sense of we want someone else our spouse to slow down, not grow as fast or not win so that we can beat them. No, that's a horrible attitude, right? Not that kind of competition at all.
Not at all, because we're all, definitely going to grow at different speeds. It's just, I think the main thing and what makes a marriage so great is just encouraging, just loving that, like we talked about.
For sure.
As they're growing.
Yeah. And one thing that's helped us also a lot is just understanding that, God works in seasons. Each of us may be in a different season. Yes, and it's not, sometimes we have our timelines we would like ourselves or our spouse to be on, but God's timeline isn't always our timeline. And it's not always at the same time for both people. and that's something I think that's important just to keep in mind regarding timing.
Yeah, that's so true. That is so true, Allan. Ecclesiastes says in 3:1, it says there is a time for everything.
That's right.
And a season for every activity under the heavens.
Yep. So instead of trying to control your spouse's growth, pray for them instead. Okay. Much better plan. Pray for your spouse, pray the best for them, pray God's will for them, instead of trying to control them, and then just trust that God is working, even when you don't see it.
Yep. It's true. We have a story about that.
We have a lot of stories probably about that.
Praying for you. There was a season, where we were done at 3, right? Children.
Done with
3 children.
Done with 3 children. Yes. We were done with 3 children.
We were done. Yeah. With 3 children, and Allan had a vasectomy. I wanted more children. He was done. And so during that season, all I could do was pray. I mean, all I can do. That's very powerful to pray. But I just felt led to pray because I'm like, that's all I can do here. It's a done deal. He had the vasectomy.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story, but I did that with really against Nicole's will. It wasn't even, I'm ashamed to even talk about this. This was before I had surrendered my life to Christ. This was at age 25, gave my life to Christ at age 28. If you listen to episode 1 and 2, we tell our story in those first 2 episodes. We'd had 3, and I just went and got a vasectomy. I told her I was going to get a vasectomy, and Nicole's always been so loving and supporting and not going to fight against me. Mm-mm. But it definitely wasn't her desire or her will at all to stop having children after 3. So just for context, I want to interject that.
Thank you very much. And so, as we all know, prayer is powerful. And so that's what I did. And for a while, and he came to me one day and said, I need to get a reversal. I need to get this reversed. I want more children. I was like,
I did.
What? So anyways, God answered my prayers, and and I'm so thankful we have the last 3.
Yeah. And for me, like I think about other examples, like even in the past, we could give a bunch of examples, but we'll keep this episode fairly brief, is, you mentioned me being an introvert in the past. I would say I would describe myself then in those early years of marriage, just going back a few decades now, as a selfish introvert and really needing to grow in the area of selflessness, in the area of communication, in the area of love for others. And really all 3 of those are tied together.
Yeah.
Love for others. If we have love for others, we are going to be selfless, and we are going to, by God's grace, be able to communicate better than if we don't have love for others and selflessness. But that was not an area that, I was way behind Nicole in that area. One of many, but that was an area I was way behind you in. And, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? Helped us
I think that what's helped us the most is love. Love is so powerful. We came to that realization years ago that, that we need to love our spouse.
Yeah.
And we weren't being loving, if we were, not, doing those things. So
yeah. That's good. So what about, Nicole, what about those listening maybe? And I'm sure we've got to have some, by the way, thank you for listening. Thank you for following. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being a part of this podcast. Thank you for sharing this podcast. Our heart, we're not doing anything to monetize this podcast. As you notice, there's no ads on this podcast. This is episode 14. And by God's grace, a week or 2 ago, by episode 12, I think, or certainly by episode 13, we hit the top 10% rank. So that means we're top 10 of all the podcasts in the world, not just marriage podcasts, all podcasts. And there's, I don't know, I've seen different numbers, but let's just call it roughly 4 to 5 million. I think around 5 million podcasts in the world. We're in the top 10% after 12 or 13, now 14 episodes, which is just amazing. But that's our heart. Really, we're not doing this because we just have nothing to do with our time. We're doing this because we want to encourage people. We want to be raw and real. We want to share our wins and our learns. They're the things we failed at, the things we're learning, so that maybe you can learn from our, experiences and our failures and our successes along the way. But all that to say, thank you so much for being a part of that and listening. I was looking at some of the statistics, and like even after just 13 episodes, where I was heading with all that is, how many countries did I tell you this has already gone into? Was it 21?
It was
It was
something
around
like
there,
that.
right?
You were reading them off.
Yeah, I think each page was 10, and I know there was a third page that had one. So I think it was 21 countries that this podcast is already in after just the first 13 episodes, which is just mind blowing. So thank you for all that to say. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for telling others about it. Thank you for posting it on your social media so that these messages can get out there and encourage more people. But that being said, there's plenty of people listening. I'm sure there's got to be several that are listening who feel like their spouse just doesn't care to change, Nicole. They just don't. My spouse doesn't care to change him, and they likely probably never will change. What do you say to them to encourage them?
So that's tough, but there's some powerful things you can do. And one is, we already talked about it. You can pray for them. Another thing you can do. Yes, the most powerful. And then also another one is you can encourage them, where, First Thessalonians, I believe it's 5:11, talks about how it tells us to encourage one another and build each other up and not tear each other down.
Right.
And so encouragement is a huge one. So prayer, encouragement, and then another one that I already talked about.
You definitely did those for me.
Is love. Love them. Romans 12:10 tells us to be devoted to one another in love, to honor one another above ourselves. So love is huge too. That reminds me of Jesus. Jesus loves so well.
Yeah.
And so prayer, encouragement, and love.
And you definitely exemplified all three of those so well.
Thank you.
Over the years.
Thank you.
I'm so blessed. I'm so tremendously blessed. I genuinely have been given so much more than I deserve in my life, Nicole. And I always tell people, I know I'm going to embarrass you, but I always tell people, yes, Nicole's beautiful on the outside, but her heart is, if it's possible, 10 times more beautiful than you are on the outside.
You're embarrassing me.
That's the truth. That is just the truth. Anybody that gets to know you will quickly learn that very, very fast. And it's fun to have a wife like that.
Thank you.
So should we leave everyone with some simple and practical takeaways?
Yeah. If we can leave you with a few simple things. Number one, ask your spouse, how can I support you in this season? And remember, cheer them on in their growth objectives.
Yeah, that's good. So communication, right? Talk, ask questions, listen. Number two, don't try to control their growth. By the example, or be the example in the areas that you would like to see them grow in, and find any and all reasons to praise them. Like I think Nicole mentioned earlier, compliment even the smallest little wins, and any amount of effort that they may make in these areas. Cheer them on, praise them, shower them with compliments in anything they're doing right.
So good. So good. And number three, focus on becoming the best version of you by maximizing the gifts, talents, and abilities and the talents that God has blessed you with. And you're probably asking, okay, what are those? What would you say to someone? Like, okay, well, how do I know what my gifts, talents, and abilities are? I mean, I know there's tests out there you can take, but
what would
you say to someone?
I think we've all been given many, many different gifts just by the fact that we're listening to this in 21 countries and growing. So we're not just listening to it here in the US, although 76% of our listeners are in the United States. So I will say, because this is where we live, if you live in the United States and probably a lot of other countries that are tuning in, we've been given a huge gift in that we're living, we're breathing. We have technology to be able to reach people. We have, if we know Jesus Christ, we have his love in our heart.
That's right.
We have the Holy Spirit living in us and through us. And we have the ability to be able to minister to others, to be hospitable, to give compliments, to show love. There's just so many things that everybody's been given. And then you're right. We all have been given some extra special gifts, talents, and abilities, to extra measure that are unique to us. But I think we all just have so many. That's a big topic. That's a big question. You just asked me.
Sorry,
caught me off guard there.
Yeah, sorry. I like to catch him off guard.
But I think
keep him on his toes.
Yeah. So hey, in closing, let's all just remember marriage isn't about growing at the exact same pace. It's about choosing to grow in the same direction with our spouses.
And that if this episode spoke to you, share it with your spouse or send it to another couple who might need it.
Yeah. And we'd love to hear from you. What season are you in right now? Please send us a DM to the Impact Marriage Podcast on your favorite social media channel and let us know. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on TikTok. We're on YouTube.
We're just everywhere.
Okay. Impact Marriage Podcast. DM us, send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Yes. What season are you in right now? If you want to share that, and maybe a future topic that you would like us to tackle on one of these episodes, we would absolutely welcome your suggestions. We want to serve you where you're at. What's going to be a blessing to you?
Yes. And if you'd be willing to write a review for us on the Apple Podcast app or possibly share it on your social media, that would really mean the world to us. Our social media links are in the show notes below.
That's right. So, hey, let's close in prayer, shall we?
Let's do it.
Lord, I just thank you for this episode. I thank you for the ability to communicate, that we even have a voice and vocal cords that work. Thank you for every single one listening and tuning in today to this episode or whatever day they're listening to this. I pray that you'd bless them. I pray that they would be committed to growing and maximizing their gifts, their talents, their abilities, their opportunities that you've placed before them, that they would not squander that, Lord, that they would maximize it, and that they would encourage their spouse in those areas as well in a completely positive, edifying, loving way, and that you would just, that you would bring, that they would bring honor and glory even more so to you by them doing that and growing to maximize their potential for you. Ultimately, it's for you, for your kingdom, and for kingdom impact, Lord. I pray that for everyone listening and for ourselves in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
Thank you so much for being part of the Impact Marriage community.
That's right. See you next Thursday. Make it a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.